So good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us on our second day at the virtual MESA Student Leadership Conference. We hope that you are going to enjoy today's offerings as much as everyone did last week. My name is Danielle McNamara. I work at the MESA statewide office and I handle the communications and marketing for MESA in California. And I'm very, very happy to get us kicked off on a recruiter panel today. So our moderator, we're very lucky to have Dr. Michaela Morgan. When we thought of who would be a good person to moderate this panel, her name came immediately. And she is the K-12 programs director and the undergraduate MESA director at UCSB. She's been with at Santa Barbara for what, Michaela, about more than 17 years, it looks like?
Well over a decade. But with this current program, we're going on 5 years.
There we go. And most importantly, she is a MESA alum. So I want to take a second and run through her education lineup. So listen, hold your breath because this is going to take a minute. She has an AA from Cabrillo College where she was involved with MESA. So yay, shout out to that. She has a bachelor's degree in chemistry from UC Santa Cruz. She has a master's in chemistry from UC Santa Barbara. Keep going. She has a master in policy, leadership, and research methods from Santa Barbara, and a doctorate in education from UC Santa Barbara. What's up? I love that. We are, again, really, really lucky to have Michaela, and everybody give her a hello and a thank you for being with us today. And I'll turn it over to you, Michaela.
Thank you, Danielle. No, what all that was is I just really like school. I know not everyone does, but I fully enjoy it. So I hope you all are enjoying it too. I see a lot of people from UC Santa Cruz on here in the chat. I was seeing that. It's awesome. I love that school. It was great being there. And one of our panelists was from UCSB too, which is also very cool. But to dive in, we are here to hear from them and all their great expertise. So let me introduce them briefly. What I'll do is do just kind of one little snippet from each of you, if that's all right, and then ask each of you to dive into more your specialty, because I think it'd be great for folks to hear it from you directly. So I'm going to go from the top of the list, just the list that I was given, so it's in no particular order. But Kelvin Lee is here with us from, he is a University Talent Scout from Uber, and also UC Santa Barbara alum. So that was exciting when I saw that. Caitlin Johnson here is from, she's a campus events and strategy manager with VMware and has over 10 years experience in campus recruiting. So please get those questions ready. And then Leo Lebrere, who is an HR manager for Edison, and focuses on, this I thought was very interesting, focuses on attracting talent through sophisticated recruitment marketing strategies through a whole candidate journey. And that, I know I personally would be interested in learning a little more about what that takes. I saw some in your bio, but I'm sure you can share with us what that is and what that involves. So with that, whoever would like to go first, if you'd like to share a little bit more about kind of what you personally do, and then we could dive into some questions.
I can go first. Hi, everyone. I'm Caitlin. I manage a lot of our campus event strategies and relationships over at VMware within the United States. So I've kind of done a little bit of it all in the university space on the industry side. So I've done true recruitment where I'm working with hiring managers and students to from interview to offer. And then now at VMware, currently what I do is try to identify where we can go interact with students to educate you about our opportunities at VMware, but then also make sure that I get your information back to the right recruiters and hiring teams, hopefully to become an intern or new grad over at VMware.
Yeah, I can go next. Hi, everyone. I'm Calvin. I'm a UCSB alum, but currently a University Talent Scout at Uber, and I focus on mostly software engineer interns and new grads, but I also am moving into more new data analysts, product analysts, interns, and new grads. So pretty much the whole tech space. So I'm responsible for the whole California hub outside of Stanford and Berkeley, and also I'm in Seattle, so I'm also responsible for the University of Washington and also the University of Michigan. So my job is pretty much going to campus, getting everyone interested in just presenting these different internships and opportunities to students.
Good morning, everyone. Again, my name is Leo Labra. I am one of the talent acquisition managers for Southern California Edison. So going back to what a little bit of the context of what I do. So I help in building our talent pipeline and amplify our employer brand to recent grads as well as professionals, and really helping and sharing the Edison story of the type of work that's happening in here. So it's really exciting. It's actually a relatively new role over the last few years. And I, just like some of my fellow panelists here, also was in the university and campus team before, and worked very closely with colleges and universities, and helping share our internship opportunities with the students, partnered really closely with organizations like SHIP and NSBE. So I'm really happy to be here. And again, we hire over 150 interns every summer. So excited to possibly share a little bit more about the insight about our process here at Southern California Edison. Thank you for having me.
Wonderful. Thank you all. Before we have some questions to get going, but before we do that, in case someone has a burning question, they've already got prepared. Do any of our attendees have a question they'd like to bring forward? And it's okay if you're not there yet. We'll get started here. All righty, so let's kick it off, and don't be shy when you have one. You can put it in the chat. Okay, I see some things there. Okay, then come on in when you're ready. Let's go ahead and start off with, how does hiring work within your company? Can you share a little bit about maybe internships specifically, or if students are focused on jobs, and then even career opportunities? What does that look like in each of your companies? And we could go in the same order if that's okay, or if someone wants to jump in first, please do.
I guess we'll just go in the same order. I can go first. So at VMware within the United States, we are going to hire about 750 interns and new grads. And I would say to break it up easily, it's like a 50-50 split of interns, full-time opportunities, and internships. Our idea is always, it's always not guaranteed, but we like to take our interns and give them the full-time offers upon graduation. It's always the hope that you come in, learn a little bit about the culture and the technology, get to know the team, so that turns into kind of a long-term job offer. But I would say 65% of what we're hiring for in this space is going to be R&D or technical in nature. So a lot of software engineers, product management, site reliability engineers, and whatnot. So a lot of computer science and technical degrees. And then kind of a growing space for us is the technical sales space, where we're looking for candidates that either have a true business background, or they have a little bit of technical knowledge, but maybe they don't want to be developing or coding, or kind of completely behind the scenes. So really looking for this kind of in-between skill set, where you might have a little bit of technical knowledge, but you actually want to be externally facing and working with customers. So technical sales is growing for sure. And then the smallest part of what we hire for at the university level is business operations. So anything I like to say, keep the lights on at VMware, HR, legal, finance, kind of just making sure that everyone else is up and running. And how we hire, there's a lot of conversations that happen behind the scenes. So one-to-one hiring. So each one of those 750 different teams has their own interview process, their own job description, your own application. We're starting to realize that that's a lot for students just at one company to kind of go through that many job listings on our site, on top of all the other applications you might be, kind of applying to different companies. So we've found generalized hiring a little bit, kind of just hiring for a certain profile, and then kind of on the back end matching you to the actual technical team you would be with, has proven some success. But then I also, we've gotten feedback from students as well as they kind of want to know and interact with the team that they would be working with full time during the interview process. So there's a little bit of pros and cons to both that we continue to kind of dance and try to balance out as we kind of look at our strategy each year.
Thank you, Caitlin. Calvin, do you want to jump in?
Yeah. So Uber is still a relatively young tech company compared to like Google's and everything. So we're I think about 10 years old now. So our university program is still relatively new. So for us a majority of our hiring is in the tech space, majority software engineering interns. So I believe this year we're looking to hire about around 200 software engineering interns. But outside of that, we're also moving into building our programs for specifically like program management, product managers, data analysts, product analysts. So still pretty much in the tech space. We just started up a new program the last year or two for finance, if anyone is still interested in that. But mostly still in tech. We hire generally for Uber, specifically for software engineers. So our process is pretty much, you get to interact with two different engineers. So you'll have one technical phone screen with one engineer. And if you were to pass that, you move on to the next engineer. And if you pass that, you'll get an offer for Uber and you'll find out your team later. But yeah, so right now, like we're still expanding moving into our early careers programs for other spaces like HR and sales and all of that. But for right now, we're mostly focused on tech just because that's what's built out.
Thank you, Calvin. And then Leo?
So we're a little bit different. So we've actually been around for quite a bit, 130 plus years. And so with that being said, for a company that's been around for this long, we're definitely facing a lot of opportunities. Again, Edison provides energy to over 13 million customers across our territory. So we're working on really exciting projects to modernize our grid, our infrastructure, as well as to meet some very aggressive goals to help fight climate change, right? And really trying to think about creating a better tomorrow for our communities. So as part of our internship program, we hire close to about 150 interns every year, as I mentioned before. We also hire primarily STEM, but I would say our split is about 80% STEM as well as 20% business. But for the most part, within those STEM roles, we have opportunities within cybersecurity to help us in protecting our grid. We hire engineers, both electrical, mechanical, industrial, computer engineering. Again, a big piece of that operations as well as maintenance and really thinking about how do we continue to advance the technology as we are looking to really aggressive goals to help us, meet some state goals. And then so for the most part, we usually start our hiring process around this time of year for summer of 2021. We usually do a lot of these type of sessions where we present the company as well as we do information sessions and networking. A lot of times we have engineers that join us for some of these sessions, as well as some other industry professionals. And then, as we are highlighting and sharing more about these opportunities, the process is students usually apply. Once they apply, you will be asked to take a assessment to ensure that you're a fit for the organization. Again, at Edison, we highly prioritize safety as one of our core values, as well as teamwork, integrity, and other type of values. So, once you go ahead and pass through that assessment, then if you're successful and you usually get your results right away, your resume will be forwarded over to the hiring manager to review. And then from there, you'll be invited to an interview panel where you'll be able to showcase yourself, your background. Again, our internships for the most part start within the May through June timeframe. They are competitive. But again, our program is really robust, and the intent of our program is to give students the opportunity to get hands-on experience as well as industry knowledge to what's happening within the utility space. We do have a pretty high conversion rate, so a lot of our entry-level engineers tend to come from our internship opportunities. So again, I highly encourage people to think about internships as a great way to get experience. Just speaking about myself, when I was in college, I did 3 different internships just to get experience in 3 different areas and industries. So it really helps you to get that experience to really understand also, what path you want to go forward with, as well as getting that experience. So that way you're a competitive candidate moving forward for those opportunities.
Thank you, Leo. And it sounds like what you're all echoing is that these internships are very important and that can lead to jobs. And so I hope all you students on here kind of get that piece and try to get some internships this summer. And now is the time, it sounds like. So we have a question from a student on here that popped up. Are all of your internships for summer 2021 going virtual? Now, Mindy, I see you've popped on, would like to answer this live. Did you want to pop in with that, or are we good to move forward with our panel? You might just be saying that. I want to make sure.
Yeah, go ahead.
But let's go ahead and start with, can we do a reverse? Can we start with you, Leo, on this one, and then go back through Kelvin and then Caitlin?
So the question again was,
Are all of your internships for summer 2021 going virtual?
the answer to that is yes. As of today, all of our summer internships are intended to go virtual. So we just finished our internship program a couple weeks ago, in early September, I guess months ago now, right? Our internship program was completely virtual. And again, for us, it's a little bit of a challenge in regards to, we want to be able to give our students the opportunity to network as well as really understand certain parts of the business. But really happy to share that we were able to do it in a virtual environment. So we did a lot of discussions and panel meetings with some of our other industry members, our executives. We also had a mentorship program that went completely virtual. So excited that, again, this is relatively new to us at Southern California Edison as far as having a virtual environment for our internship program. But I would say that was very successful. We got really great feedback. Of course, we still miss seeing people in person, but we do intend to be able to go virtual for summer 2021.
Thank you, Leo. Kelvin, would you mind answering?
Yeah, so nothing's officially announced for us yet, but it's most likely going to go virtual. I think Google was like the first tech company to announce theirs officially, so I think everyone's going to follow suit now. But yeah, so for us, we had we pivoted last year pretty quickly to virtual with everything, or this year at least, with everything going on. So we're a lot more prepared this year for pivoting back to our virtual space. And from our feedback with our interns from this past summer, it was pretty positive, even though it was in a virtual environment and folks weren't able to move San Francisco or wherever their office was assigned, but everyone had a pretty positive experience. And we also like folks working from other countries and everything. So it definitely helps for people to have a flexible schedule too.
Thank you, Kelvin. Caitlin?
Awesome. I will echo what both these gentlemen said. As of yesterday, we made the announcement that offices will not open to full capacity until September of 2021. So we will be virtual as well. And kind of similar to what Kelvin was saying with Uber, we're a virtualization company. So it's kind of what we do. So it was a little bit of a scramble earlier this year to kind of 2 months before change everything to a virtual environment. But with our software that we have kind of just in-house, we were able to make that happen pretty quickly. And as VMware as an organization was looking to move to more of a distributed workforce model within the next 3 years, and kind of a happy byproduct of COVID is that's really accelerated that kind of company priority. So not only just looking at virtual internships, but allowing a lot of our workforce to pick if they want to be in office or go remote completely and move to somewhere that they might like and kind of just log in from there and have a distributed kind of work model and team.
Thank you, Caitlin. It's a very interesting time we're in, which I think we'll have some more questions related to that as we go. But we have another one from our attendees. So what do you look for in your interns? What are things that we undergrads can be working on now so that we are prepared when time comes to apply to internships? And then the final part of this is, aside from skill set, are there any personal qualities, so kind of soft skills, I would imagine, that you look for in people? Could we kind of do a reverse again? We'll kind of go back and forth. So Caitlin, if you would like to start.
Yeah, absolutely. So I remember going through this when I was in school, right? You're trying to get an internship because you need experience, and a lot of the job descriptions say like needs experience in, and it feels kind of like this rotating wheel of I'm trying to get experience, this is why I'm applying. So typically what I like to tell students is, it does vary. Again, we're hiring 750 interns. So each kind of team might be looking for some specific technical skill sets or niche. But ideally, we do a lot of work with our hiring managers, especially at the university talent level. And then when I'm interacting with students and our recruiters are interacting with students, kind of beyond, some bare minimum technical requirements, we typically look for experience, and experience doesn't have to mean industry experience. It could mean course projects, maybe working for a nonprofit, doing hackathons, anything that shows that you're kind of applying the skills that you might be learning in the classroom. And or side projects, personal projects, always bode well on a resume. And then on top of that, passion and potential. So just showing that you're really eager about the space and the interests that you're looking to kind of pursue an internship or a full-time role in. Again, you can show that through like the hackathons or being part of a student group, holding a leadership position, working for a nonprofit. And then potential, kind of just show, I always like to say, showing a dynamic resume kind of shows that you're more than capable of just going to class. You're really excited, and trying to get as much knowledge and different experience in kind of the field. So experience, passion, and potential are kind of the soft skills that I typically look for on a resume.
Thank you, Caitlin. So Kelvin, if you'd like to answer things you folks are looking for in internships, how students can become prepared, and are there other soft skills that you're looking for?
Yeah, of course. This is awesome because I actually just held a resume workshop yesterday with the student group. So pretty much answered this question already, but pretty much for me specifically, I like to see students who are involved in different orgs. So MESA is like a pretty big one where I'll see, because you're applying their skills that you're learning from the classroom. Definitely seeing folks who, I think one of the biggest things when you're working in industry and just a corporation is you're going to be working cross-functionally with different teams. So being able to let's say you're holding leadership positions, working within an organization, whether it is involved in what you're trying to do or not, but as long as you're working with other people. So I think that's one of the biggest things, just showing that you're able to work with other people. And outside of that, like if let's say you don't have any experience with internships yet, just having your different projects, any research experience, things like that is very important to list on your resume, just to have as a big like call out, rather than, because I know like a lot of folks, especially in 2020, weren't able to get internships this year just because of COVID, or they were all rescinded. So also at least for us, we were a lot more lenient, and we were trying to read between the lines for everything on resumes.
Thank you, Kelvin. And Leo, same thing. What are you all looking for in interns? How do they prepare, and soft skills?
So I have a couple thoughts around it. So one is try to be involved, right? Take initiative, whether it's school clubs, organizations that are available in school, as well as projects, whether it's research, whether it's hands-on. I think it's really important that you take the initiative. Those are the things that companies look for. When we think about like our internships and like, again, one of our senior vice presidents started off as an intern, right? So you don't think about those type of things, but like you think about leadership, right? Like making sure that you're taking leadership opportunities. And again, it could be leadership in a group project. It could be leadership in an extracurricular activity. So again, starting to develop those skills are really important, as well as other skills like problem solving skills, showcasing that you're a team player, as well as anything that you have an opportunity to get involved specifically around your major or what you're looking to eventually, land a career in. I think that would be helpful. Make sure that you do your research. I know sometimes we might not be ready to make a move or ready to make, take that step in applying it to an internship. But just know that like there's never going to be a perfect time. So you can go ahead and look through a couple different internship job postings to see like what do they look for, right? And work yourself from there. So start trying to get experience based off of like what your dream internship is, so you can slowly start building your acumen. Again, one of the things that I also highly recommend is doing networking, right? Network with people in your industry and where you want to go. If there's a company that you want to work for, try to find someone maybe on LinkedIn and just reach out to them, and not necessarily go to them and say, hey, I want to land a job with you, but like I just want to learn more about how you started your career. Do you have time in about a month, right? Because people are really busy. I get emails and in-mails all the time, but if you let me know or if you reach out to me saying, Leo, I'm really interested in learning more about like your career path. You know, I know you're probably busy, but you have some time maybe in a few weeks for us to meet virtually or something like that, right? So again, take initiative, you know, look to get involved with school projects, build those leadership skills. As you start applying to your job, personalize your experience for that resume. So you can't just have one general resume and use that resume for all the jobs or all the internships that you're going to apply to. Try to personalize it and really understand the job in itself. And again, just take initiative. You know, there's never going to be a perfect time, but I think right now, use this as an opportunity to engage with people, connect with people, start building your online presence. You know, start showcasing yourself and start reaching out to people.
Yeah, I think, Leo, those were two really good points. As far as I always encourage students to use job descriptions as a resource of maybe this is your dream job, see what's requiring and where the gaps are so you can kind of back into that and go find that experience or enroll in those classes to get those skill sets. And then networking as well. I always tell even my friends and students, it's just kind of asking people about their experience to talk about themselves. They don't have to prepare anything. And I don't think anybody doesn't like talking about themselves. So it's kind of an easy ask for someone like, hey, do you have 20 minutes? I just want to learn about where you got to, where you did. And I mean, I'm always like, yeah, sure. I can talk about myself forever. That's easy. I know everything about myself. So what do you want to know?
Wonderful advice, folks. And I want to kind of tie in two questions that we kind of had because it ties into a panelist and what you all were talking about. So specifically sharing what key experiences you are looking for at your company, but then Leo touched on this. So I want to bring this into the question of then what types of things, so in those key experiences, what types of things should be on their resume if they're applying to your specific company? Should they be doing things like Jumpstart, Handshake, LinkedIn? Are there ones you use more than others? Well, what are your recommendations there? For this, to mix it up a little bit, could we start with Kelvin?
Yeah. So for us, we get thousands of candidates. Like if I look through my application, because we put all our, specifically for software engineer interns, they apply to one requisition or job posting. So they all go into this one bucket. So for me, we have a team of about 3 or 4 people who have to look through every single application. So people can get lost in the shuffle. So I think my best advice is you have to have like keywords on there because we will use search functions in our job ATS or applicant tracking system to help us sift through people and find people faster, because if we don't, we're going to lose them right away because they'll be applying for other companies. So definitely have keywords, look through the job description, find things like whether it's like a language that you're good at. So for specifically in university, folks are usually learning C++, Java, and Python. So those are like the 3 main languages we'll always be looking for. Specifically at Uber, if someone has experience in Go, that's a big plus. But personally for me, once you're like past those basic qualifications, I'll look for well-rounded candidates who have been involved in different organizations. Like one of my favorite things to see is like folks who have been in organizations like Engineering Without Borders, like you're helping your community and things like that. And also, specifically at Uber, like we're working in transportation. So anyone who has experience working in transportation, I'll give the resume a longer look through. But yeah, so like just kind of tailor your resume towards the company that you're applying for.
Thank you, Kelvin. Leo, would you like to answer next?
Specifically, it just depends on the role, right? So we have different areas. I mentioned some of the positions that we hire for: engineering, cybersecurity, data scientists, environmental. So it just depends on the role specifically. But going back to what I had mentioned before, you know, do your research. I would also think about courses that you are taking that are applicable. A lot of our hiring managers will ask specific questions like, you know, can you share a little bit more about, you know, this course that you're taking? And again, you know, it's an internship position, right? We don't expect you to have years of experience or extensive, you know, project experience, right? I think that's okay, but we also want to see like how interested you are. So when I was in campus recruiting, I supported cybersecurity or cybersecurity managers, and one thing that we would look for is, you know, are these individuals, you know, taking extracurricular activities? Are they in the cybersecurity clubs at their schools? Do they have any, board positions? Those are always the people that always kind of come to the top, right? So your presidents, your vice presidents, your secretaries. I mean, those are the people that really stand out because again, they're taking that initiative to build that experience and and building those leadership qualities. So along with that, I would think that you want to probably start thinking of how do you let other people know and how do you like sell yourself and amplify yourself. So I'm a big proponent of like LinkedIn, and I know for college students, Handshake is big too. So start building out your profile, start building out your resume, because whether it's for now or for the future, you want to be able to have people give you that opportunity. And sometimes you just need that opportunity. You just need to knock on that door, and then once they open that door, you kind of go through that door, right? By showcasing yourself and start preparing now for interviews. So start thinking about doing mock interviews. I know that through this event, I know there are some opportunities to do mock interviews. Take advantage of that. Take advantage of all the resources that schools offer, clubs offer. Of course, you have to make sure it's a balance, right? Because you also don't want your academics to suffer, but you want to make sure that you start thinking down the road and how you're going to position yourself to be marketable, as well as have those skills ready, so that way when you go into an interview, you can give it your best shot.
Thank you, Leo. Could you also share kind of what platforms you all use virtually, like what you find to be the most useful or what your company always goes to?
So specifically, we use Handshake quite a bit, but we also use LinkedIn. So the reason why we use LinkedIn, and I understand that a lot of students don't have a robust LinkedIn profile. So I'm happy to connect with anyone if anyone wants any feedback or advice. That's my bread and butter. But it is important that you, again, start building your online presence, especially in today's environment, right? Where we're all virtual. We don't have that same opportunity that we had before where, you'd be in an in-person club meeting and, you have industry members coming through, right? So you got to think about longer term, like how do you foster, how do you build? And again, like I personally share a lot of our opportunities and positions, even though I may not be the recruiter for that position, I share it with my network, right? So you want to be able to have easy access to some of that information. And a lot of companies do use LinkedIn or Handshake. So you want to make sure that you, look to explore and again, have a couple options. Again, every company is slightly different. So you want to make sure that you at least prepare yourself and do your research. There's sites like Glassdoor that are really helpful. And really help you understand a little bit more of the culture. Employees usually leave reviews, or candidates leave reviews on what their interview process is like. So highly encourage you to take the initiative to do your research before you move forward through an interview. So that way you have all your ducks straight.
Thank you, Leo. So Caitlin, we'd like to pose the same question to you. What key experiences are you looking for in VMware? And then what platforms are you all using or you would like students to turn to?
Yeah, key experiences, again, that experience, passion, and potential, just kind of knowledge and aptitude in the space in which you're trying to go, whether that's through a project or leadership or group or a hackathon or whatnot, a personal project. And then as far as Calvin and like Leo said, we do use like keyword searching too. So if there's certain skill sets on a job description, we will go into our database through our thousands of resumes to kind of see what will return the results. But then another thing, never underestimate the power of a network. Employee referrals actually are a huge chunk of our hiring class. Employees definitely know what it takes to be at VMware. They know the culture at VMware. They're our best recruiters. So at VMware, we actually give the employee referral priority kind of look before the other candidates in their requisition. Just kind of, again, they know what it takes. They know what their teams are doing. So their applications, referrals will actually get flagged, and we'll look at those first. So again, getting on network, or LinkedIn, being visible, get on all the platforms, honestly, and just kind of start knocking on doors. And you might do an informational conversation with someone at Uber that might actually have a contact with someone over at Microsoft that actually knows a hiring manager that's looking for an intern in your skill set. So kind of just getting out there, being visible, and just keep knocking on doors and working on your skills.
To that, I think Caitlin has an excellent point. Referrals are huge. And again, don't underestimate the power of networks and networking. I know that when managers reach out to me and say, hey, like there's this person that I know, and I want to make sure that the resume at least gets looked at. Like I will make sure that I go into that resume and I take a careful look at it. And whether if I'm the recruiter or someone else is the recruiter, I want to make sure that they do the same thing, right? So don't underestimate that. I think it's really, really important. And again, it gives you insight to things that can help you be a better qualified candidate as you go into these interviews.
Excellent. Yes. Network. Use your MESA alumni network. Use your SHIP, NSBE, all those student orgs that you're in. Those are crucial.
Yeah, and then I was just going to add, again, being parts of like SHIPs and the Grace Hoppers and MESA, we will actually go into Jumpstart and kind of look for that student affiliation and kind of browse through the applicants there as well.
Thank you, Caitlin. Actually, you just started in the next, our executive director asked a question. So you started it. If you can fill in a little bit more with that of how you specifically use Jumpstart and in your recruitment process.
Yeah, again, it's kind of the same as the database. We'll type in some certain skill sets. Maybe they make it really easy as far as like location. You could do like major, graduation date, and whatnot, and kind of it makes it's a really nice for recruiters on the back end to kind of navigate through and just have search results pulled, and then you kind of can just scroll over the different resumes and then message right then and there. Like, hey, I think you'd be great for this job, and kind of get the recruitment process started almost seamlessly.
Wonderful. Kelvin, I believe your company is also on Jumpstart. Are there some key things you can share with our students of how they can make their Jumpstart profile better or how you utilize it?
So to be honest, I just got added to it like probably a month ago, so I'm not too familiar with it yet. But I can speak to just like in general to Handshake and maybe even LinkedIn. I think one of the biggest problems I've been running into is like a lot of candidates are maybe a little lazy to like fill out their whole profile. So when I'm going to the ATS, I'll see a new LinkedIn profile that submitted their application and it's just completely blank. And that's like automatic pass through right away. So for me, my biggest advice is always just submit your actual resume and not just submit your LinkedIn profile, because it's very easy to do, but then no one's going to look at your profile after that.
That's key. You've got to fill it out. From there, I want to shift this up a little because we have another great question from our attendees, and I'm going to add a little bit to it. So they were asking, what are some things that you've seen interns do that has allowed them to succeed and potentially get a return offer? And kind of the twist I want to add to this, are there also some things that you've seen that really were a problem that students should avoid? And I'm sure you've seen some things over your time. Could we have you start this off, Caitlin, if that's all right?
Yeah, it sounded like it was a two-part question. What it was?
Yeah, so what are some things that you've seen interns do that allow them to succeed and potentially get a return offer? And then kind of on the reverse of that, are there some things they really need to avoid and then be careful not to do?
Yeah, I would definitely say, again, return offers, that's always our hope. But, headcount, reorganization, forecasting almost 18 months into the future is always tough. But I will say that success, I've seen a lot of interns come in, do a great job on their team, and then kind of just, again, never underestimate the power of a network, kind of just meet people on other teams while you're in the organization. So maybe if your team doesn't get a return offer, you're automatically kind of shopped, and those people are familiar with you, and maybe they have some headcount, and that turns into a full-time offer on their team. So again, just coming into the organization, creating a brand for yourself, networking, interacting with different teams and kind of across the organization. And I would say kind of the opposite, unsuccessful interns maybe just come in, they don't go above and beyond, just kind of do the bare minimum, and don't show like a lot of value necessarily. The hiring manager may not go make a case that, they want to bring them on full time after graduation.
Thank you, Caitlin. Leo, do you want to add to this?
So a couple of things to me that are important, again, as someone that recruited before, as well as someone that is a manager right now, just the basics, right? Like think about the basics, like professionalism, showing up on time, making sure you're respectful. Those are like really like basic things, but it's not something that people always follow, right? So that's really important. I think the other part is taking initiative. I think taking initiative, again, sounds basic, but it's not always done. And the important part of that is the follow through. So you're going to take initiative, but are you also doing your follow through, right? So if you told your manager you're going to do this, and that you're going to go ahead and follow up and say like, well, it's good. I'm going to complete this by Friday. You know, making sure that you do complete it by Friday. Attitude is so important. So again, attitude will open the doors for you. And you want to make sure that, you know, you always display a positive attitude. You foster an inclusive environment. Ask questions. Learn as a student. Like, it's okay for you to ask questions. Don't be shy, right? Because I think sometimes we tend to think that, well, what are they going to say if I don't know the answer to this, or are they going to think that it's a silly question? There's no such thing as a silly question. Just ask. Of course, you can always do your own research too, and you can go ahead and go to your manager or to your mentor and say, hey, I just did research on this question that I wasn't sure about. I just want to validate if this is the case, right? So you do that. On the opposite side, I would say stay away from gossip. Make sure that you again are following through. Some of the pitfalls that I've seen from unsuccessful interns has been just like, again, you know, showing up late, not following through, kind of crossing the line sometimes. And again, you know, I think when we think about our environment, sometimes there's different generations, right? So we have various generations here at Southern California Edison, and just being mindful of everyone and their preference for communication. So try to also think about that. You might like communication a certain way, but some of your other colleagues or your team members might not. So trying to find a middle ground, again, while just ensuring that you're following, you know, the values of the company is really important.
Thank you. Some great advice. Kelvin, do you have some things to add to that on how people can be successful in an internship versus maybe some things that won't help?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things is definitely what Leo said, like ask a lot of questions. At Uber, at least, you're assigned a manager and a mentor who will guide you throughout the whole 12 weeks that you're here. So throughout that process, they know that you're relatively inexperienced. You're not used to the culture at Uber yet. So they're there to guide you. So any questions you have, they want to hear it. There's nothing wrong with over communicating with them. And especially during the interview process, one of the things they're always looking out for is, especially as a software engineer intern, is you're able to explain your thought process, talk your way through a coding problem, things like that. And that will kind of show them that you're able to communicate well. So that's one of the biggest things I've seen that for interns to do well. Another thing is also build community with your interns, your fellow intern cohort. Also talk to, ask for feedback from your mentor and manager. They're there to bring that, give that to you. Be self-critical, but also don't be too critical of yourself. If they give you feedback that is negative, build on that and don't just take it too harshly. And yeah, so one of the things I definitely see that in previous years interns that who didn't do well, where they didn't show up, they weren't communicating to their manager and mentor that they had problems. So they just kind of sat in their corner, and if they were struggling with coding or doing something related to their role, they never communicated that to anyone, and they never knew what was going on. So as recruiters at Uber, at least, we're communicating with the manager and mentor to be that liaison. And if they're giving us negative feedback, we have to communicate why. And one of the biggest feedbacks I give to interns is, hey, communicate with your mentor and manager, because if they don't know what's going on, they can't help you out.
Thank you, Kelvin. Communication is key. So we have another question here about that pretty much boils down to, if you're at a company, maybe not quite as prestigious as maybe some of your companies, but you know, folks are getting good skills. Do they have a chance of interviewing with you? I think this was a question of just, what does it take to get interviews with your company? Is it about their skills? How do they highlight those? What can they do to be successful? Could we begin with you, Kelvin?
Yeah, so one of the biggest things at Uber is we like to see people who take initiative and build things. So even if you're at a less prestigious company, or I'm assuming it's probably a startup or something, that means I would guess that you would have a lot more responsibilities as an intern there. They're probably asking you to build things. So you want to communicate that on your resume, say that you built this feature for this company, what language you were using, just very highlight that, say you own this whole thing. Maybe you could be embellishing, but I wouldn't know. But I think that's one of the biggest things, because I usually won't look for the company name and I'll look at what you actually did. I think one of the biggest problems I see on a resume is they list what they did, but it's like one line and it's very brief and it doesn't really explain what they actually did. I think a bigger thing that one of the most important things to include on those lines is say what the metric was, like how did you improve the efficiency and things like that, and that'll catch my eye a lot when it comes to reviewing a resume.
Thank you, Kelvin. We actually had one follow-up specifically for you, and they asked, if an intern is struggling, have you seen them turn it around and succeed in the rest of their internship?
Yeah, no, definitely. So at Uber, at least for our internship process, we have a midpoint review with the mentor and manager just to see how the intern is doing the first 6 weeks. And for, as a recruiter, we'll communicate that feedback, and also the mentor and manager will do that too, to let you all know how they're doing and how they can improve. So a lot of people have turned it around. It's just like very small things, usually like communication issues or just taking the initiative. Because and especially in the virtual environment, it was a little harder to just keep an eye on that. But yeah, just for us, we had to take the initiative to like speak to our interns, like, hey, this is what you're struggling from the manager, the mentor's eyes. So there have been a lot of folks who took the feedback well, and they turned it around at the midpoint.
Great. Thank you, Kelvin. Caitlin, can we turn to you on how varied experience can be utilized to get an internship with your company? How can they secure something like that?
Yeah, sure. Just to tack on what Kelvin was saying, as far as like listing on your resume, what you did, I like to tell students, what were you responsible for and what did you actually accomplish? Like a lot of us know what a software engineer does, or, you know, a designer, but kind of what your particular kind of spin or touch or accomplishment goes really well on their resume. And then kind of a one happy byproduct of, you know, receiving tons of resumes and using technology, again, is we're using those keyword searches to return kind of the candidates that have the skill set that the job would need. So it's kind of, if you have the skill sets, then you're going to return in that search for us to look at anyways. So, and then another thing we do for a lot of our technical roles on the front end before we even put you into kind of the interview process with the hiring manager is have you complete a hacker rank, a technical skill set challenge. And then we kind of look and see who's kind of gotten the best scores on that. And that's kind of what we push forward. So we are kind of starting to kind of blur the lines of this kind of reputation and really just trying to evaluate on like actual skill sets and kind of how you're performing in these technical challenges and whatnot.
Thank you. You kind of highlighted on this, but just to clarify, because there's another question. Do you want them more to focus on what they did or the impact part, or is it really about both?
I think you could do it both. But if it's something that every single person in that role does, or it's kind of like an unspoken, you know, you developed this many, you know, you were responsible for coding, but how many lines of code did you build, or just kind of anything you can quantify, I think always kind of grabs attention more than kind of just, it feels like you're reading a job description on the resume.
Thank you, Caitlin. Leah, would you like to share kind of from your company's perspective how they could secure internships more successfully with you all? How they can utilize their skills, you know, how do you want them to talk about them?
Sure. I just want to echo what everyone else said. I think quantifying and showing the impact that you had, regardless of if it's at a place that you're volunteering or whether it's a part-time job, like tell me about the impact that you had specifically, right? I don't want to know like, well, I moved, you know, I filed paperwork, I mean, which is fine. But if you can say, you know, I helped reduce, you know, paperwork or I made things electronic. Showing the impact that you had is going to really help in showing the impact that you could possibly have in our company, right? One other thing that I also want to mention that is really important, at least at Southern California Edison, is like, you know, your passion, right? So are you interested in, you know, reducing carbon emissions? Are you interested in transportation electrification? Are you interested in modernizing things and you know, streamlining things? You know, if we see those type of things throughout your resume, again, doesn't matter what, you know, where you worked at, or whether it's at a school project or whether it's at a fast food restaurant, but did you help streamline something? Did you help and make things better, right? And then again, you know, going back to your passion. I mean, are you passionate about climate change? Are you passionate about, solving one of the biggest problems of in the world? And if we can see that on your resume, whether it's a part of a project that you worked on at school, or if it's part of something that you did on your own, like again, like if you took the initiative to be part of this organization. I mean, those are the kind of things that sometimes really stand out to us, whether it's in recruitment or whether it's from a hiring manager perspective. Again, like we want people that are really interested in working in our space. And again, like those people usually take the steps to research and take the steps to know more about that. And again, whether it's on your resume or whether it's on that interview that you're going to have, if you can share a little bit about that, I think that could really help your chances and enhance your opportunities.
Thank you, Leo. And also all of you have had great advice. We're coming closer to the end of our time, so I'm going to try to combine these last two questions we have here, and they do go together. So folks are asking, when applying to internships, should it be on your website? Is there another process that's more effective? So that might be like a platform like we talked about earlier. And then so after the application part, do you all suggest contacting the recruiters for follow-up? Should that be via email or a different process? Can we begin with you, Leo?
Sure. So for us here at Southern California Edison, it is through our website. So if you do go onto Handshake and you see one of our job postings, it's going to probably direct you back to our website. So it all starts, with our applicant tracking system, where you are required to upload your resume and fill out an application and express interest into each job that you might be interested in. It might require for you to submit a couple applications, and that's my recommendation to you. Don't just apply to one, apply to multiple that you might be interested in. As well as, going back to your question about follow-up, I think it's always nice if you know who the recruiter is. So for example, if I'm the recruiter and I'm posting about these internship opportunities through my LinkedIn, feel free to follow up with me, send me a private message or comment. That's fine. Sometimes it might be hard to do that. And again, every recruiter is slightly different. Some recruiters, again, we get a lot of applicants, right? We get thousands of applicants. So it might be hard to just follow up with each application. But I always recommend people to go back to your job application. A lot of times the applicant tracking systems will let you know where you are in the process. And it doesn't hurt to do a follow-up if you do know who the recruiter is a couple weeks later. I wouldn't do it immediately because again, we have a lot of applications that are coming through. But if you do know who the recruiter is, absolutely follow up. Again, I'm always happy to answer questions or responses, provide responses to people that are inquiring.
Thank you, Leo. Caitlin, would you like to answer these questions?
Yeah, I mean, everything Leo said, we will advertise our jobs on LinkedIn, on our website, on Jumpstart, on Handshake, but it all drives back to our applicant tracking system. Even if you do apply on the Handshake or Jumpstart and a recruiter finds you, it's just legality on our part. They're probably going to ask you to apply directly to our official system so we can track it for compliance and whatnot. So I mean, at the end of the day, you should get driven to the career site one way or the other for the company. And then again, you can follow up. We get a ton of resumes. If you know who the recruiter is, go ahead and follow up. But again, don't underestimate the power of a network. Apply to a position, and if you know someone at that company, maybe they can kind of do some peeking around or pushing your resume over to that team as well.
Thank you, Caitlin. That's a good piece of advice. That's not always the recruiter. It might be another in through your network. And Kelvin, would you be willing to answer this question as well?
Yeah, so pretty much the same as both of them said, it's a compliance thing, so you need to apply through our website. To answer the question of following up, I think it does vary between recruiters. I definitely give a look at people who find my email address somehow, I guess they stalked me or they just tried different combinations. So if I get it in my email inbox, I'll definitely look them up in the ATS just because they took that extra effort, and it does put them a little bit above the line just because, for me at least, there's thousands of people to review and you're going one by one. But if someone were to email me and I see the resume, I'll look up in the application tracking system just to give them a check out first, just because they put that extra effort in.
Yeah, that's great to know. We're in our last kind of 4 minutes here, so I want to give each of you a chance if there's anything that didn't come up in these questions that you feel is a word of wisdom you want to impart on our students as we leave today, that would be very helpful. Can we begin with you, Kelvin?
I'm sorry, what was the question again?
Any words of wisdom that you want to impart on our students just as they're on the job hunt, as they're heading out, or anything we didn't touch on that you feel like they really should know about?
Yeah, so I guess as everyone has already said, like expand your network, connect with anyone as much as you can if you're interested in working for Uber. If you're especially like you're a software engineer, try to reach out to different engineers. We do look at referrals the most, and when when an engineer pings me saying, "Hey, this person, I think you should give a look at," I'll definitely keep that in mind. So I think one of the most important things, especially that I didn't really keep in mind when I finished college, was building my network. And I guess now that I'm in recruiting, it's just like such a big thing in my life now.
Thank you, Kelvin. Caitlin, would you be willing to share any last words of wisdom or things?
Again, like the building of the network, never underestimate that. Just having a good, employment brand or personal brand for yourself, just all the interactions that you have with different people. You just kind of never know when that's going to come back. And I mean, it's a numbers game. I remember my mom, when I first graduated, she was like, it's numbers game, just to apply. And it, it's science, right? Like something will kind of hit, but just being out there, being visible, kind of not, knocking on doors, and something will eventually, don't get discouraged. Something will eventually kind of land.
Resilience, that's important.
Just kind of building off that, like, honestly, the job application process is a lot of luck. So I talked about this last night, but even if you get an interview, you can be very lucky depending who you're interviewing with. So don't ever take it personally if you get rejected for a job application. Maybe you did well, but it just happened that interviewer was charging way more harshly than someone else.
Mm-hmm. Very good point. And Leo, do you want to round us out with your final tips or words of wisdom?
Again, the other panelists, shared kind of the same thoughts here. Don't give up. Be resilient. Learn from your opportunities, right? So if you do not get that opportunity that you're striving for, don't give up. Learn from that experience. Ask for feedback. I think that's definitely okay. One thing that I always share about just my story is I kind of waited a little bit late. I waited until my senior year. I kind of freaked out a little bit because I didn't have any internship experience. I wasn't as involved because I had to work while I was going to school. But once I reached my senior year, I was like, I got to really step it up. I got to really get involved. So I did as much as I could. Throughout that year, I did 3 different internships. I gained really great experience. And again, I think, just kind of going in with the mindset of like, you're trying to learn, you might start from the bottom, but, as you start building trust with your team members and your colleagues, they'll be able to, share more responsibilities with you so you can gain more experience. And again, the power of networking, it's so important. I'll share this personal story again. When I graduated college, I had a job before I graduated. And part of the reason is that I stayed in touch with my first manager at my first internship. And, I never lost touch with her. I just, would ping her once in a while, check up on her, see how she was doing. And, as I was getting closer to graduation, she had mentioned to me that there was an opportunity that was opening up. And so I went in and interviewed and got the job. So make sure you foster those relationships. Again, don't give up, learn from your mistakes. Don't be so hard on yourself. It's going to take a couple of times for you to knock on those doors. But once you get that door to open up, take advantage of it, maximize it as much as you can. Follow the basics, build that trust with your supervisors and your managers and your colleagues, and just go ahead and fly from there.
Thank you so much to all of you. This has been wonderful. You've had excellent advice. I hope all our students online right now have taken notes from everything you've shared. Remember, folks, networking, that came up a ton. Fill out those profiles. They're looking at all different platforms, it sounds like. Go to their website to apply, and reach out if you have questions and need support. So thank you, Caitlin, Kelvin, Leo. I'm looking in order of my screen. We so appreciate you all being here. And thank you so much for talking with our students.
Yeah. Thank you all. Good weekend.
Thanks, everyone. This is Danielle again. I have a couple of announcements that I want to make before folks jump off. Please use this link in the chat for to do the survey so that we can get some additional information from you to see how things went. If we can get another round of thank you to everyone, that would be great. Yes, and thank you. I wanted to let folks know that there were a lot of questions about how to kind of navigate the world right now and trying to get internships and other jobs while we are all virtual. So I really suggest that you go to the webinar that we're doing this afternoon called Navigating the Virtual Job Search and Interview Experience. I've reposted the link to that in our community on Jumpstart, so you'll be able to find that there. And one last thing, if folks don't know, our alumni, Victor Glover, who is a NASA astronaut, is set to take off with his crew tomorrow afternoon up to the International Space Station through SpaceX. So if you go, I've posted it to all of our social media channels, but it's easy to find. If you want to see how you can view it, it'll be very, very cool. He's part of the MESA family, so everyone should check it out. And thanks again to Michaela for being our moderator. We appreciate it. Thanks a lot, everybody.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Calvin, Caitlin, and Leo. Calvin, if you, we gave Caitlin and VMware access to all of our